Hi, in this video I'm going to show you how you can use animated GIF images to create an animated background that you can then secure into the background of a slideshow in PowerPoint or Google Slides. I'm going to use PowerPoint to create my animated background. So I can insert GIFs, I can insert still images, I could insert text and tables and shapes and anything else that I would like to have in my background. In this case, I'm going to be creating a Christmas themed background. I'm going to have some animated elements, I'm going to have some still elements, and I will go and insert those and I'll be right back. Okay, so now you can see I have inserted all the elements that I want in my background. I've got a few animated elements. I've got my tree with the flashing lights. I've got a fireplace with the fire burning. I've got some candles over here that are flickering. I've got snow falling in the window outside. And I've got an animated snow globe. I have also included a number of still elements in my background. I didn't want to make it too busy, so I chose not to use an animated border. I chose a still border, and I've got a rug, and I've got a chair, and the gifts, and the decorations on the tree, just to fill it out a bit. You can make your background as full or as empty, whatever you need in your background you can put there, including these animated images. So now what we're going to do is we are going to save this as an animated GIF. There are two ways that we could do this. The first method I'm going to show you is a little bit simpler, and it may be one that you've come across already, and that is to go to File, Save As, and then you'll see over here I have more options. Now I can select in the drop-down menu over here, Animated GIF Format. And I'm going to save this. I'm just going to call it Christmas background, and I'll save. Okay, so now it is saved as a GIF image. So now I'm going to go and I'm going to insert this on a new slide so that you can see what it looks like. So first I'm going to insert a new slide. I'm just going to delete all of these text boxes that I don't need. And now I'm going to insert that GIF that I had. So to do that, I'm just going to go and insert the picture that I've just created, which is this Christmas background. And I can move it around and I can resize it so that it fits on the screen. But now the fact that I can do that is actually a problem, because that is exactly what we are trying to avoid at this point. We don't want this to be movable. We don't want it to be able to be selected. I don't want people to be able to come and copy it and paste it into other places, because then the clip art in it is not protected. So what we are going to do is I'm going to show you on the next slide how I can insert it so that it is not movable like this and it cannot be copied and pasted or saved in any way. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and create a new slide again. I'll delete those text boxes. And now I'm going to choose the Design tab. And in the Design tab, I'm going to go to Format Background. Select Picture or Texture Full and Insert. Now I'm going to choose from a file, and then I'm going to go and choose that exact same background that we just inserted. But now, if you look at this, I cannot click it and drag it. I can't move it around like I could with this one. Here I could move it around. There. In this one, I can't move it around. I also, if I right click it, there's no copy option. You'll see that there is a save background option, but if I go to that, you'll see that it wants to save it as a JPEG. And if I go to the drop-down menu over here, there's no GIF option. So people can't save this as a GIF either, even though it is a GIF. Now, at the moment, it may not look like a GIF. And that's because when you have inserted a GIF into the background in PowerPoint, it isn't animated until you go to the slideshow. When you're in slideshow, then the animations will work. So this is what my background looks like now, using the GIF that I have just created. The previous slide, which is the one I'm going to at the moment, you won't be able to see the difference, but I just changed to the previous slide, which is the one that I inserted before that not as a background. It looks identical. If I switch between the two, they look identical to each other. However, in editing mode, the one that's inserted as a background won't be animated, but it is protected, whereas the one that I just inserted as a picture is animated, but it is not protected. Okay, if I go back to the first slide in the slideshow, now if you look over here, you'll see the quality is much better on the first slide, which is where I inserted all of the images for the first time. If I move to one of the slides where I created the background GIF, the quality becomes worse. It is more grainy and it is less crisp. All the lines, all the edges are less crisp. You'll see the lights that are flashing over here, they're grainy. It just doesn't look as nice. So now I'm going to go and show you the second method that we can use to create our GIF. So first I'm going to go and delete these. And so now we're back on the first slide again, which is where I inserted everything in the first place. And I'm going to go and save this as a GIF, but I'm going to do it differently. Okay, so to save this using the second method, I'm going to go to File again, but this time I'm not going to go to Save As, I'm rather going to go to Export. And you'll see over here I've got an option to create an animated GIF. If I click on there, I now have a few options that I can select where I can change so that I can get some degree of control over the GIF that is going to be produced. First of all, the file size and the quality. This is the default setting. It's medium file size and moderate quality. So that is the setting that it had when it created that GIF last time using the first method. I am going to change it from medium because I didn't like the quality I had there to extra large. This is the same as HD quality. This I can do because I'm creating this specifically to use in PowerPoint or Google Slides. If I was creating it for Boom, I wouldn't be able to use this setting because it would be too big. It would not be able to actually be animated. But because I'm creating it for PowerPoint or Google Slides, there's no file size limit, and so I can have a slightly bigger file that allows me to have better quality and it will still be animated. So I'm going to choose extra large. I can also change the time on the slide. Now this is useful if you are using GIFs which have a certain amount of time that they need to actually complete the animation. If you've got a GIF that lasts for 5 seconds, but your setting over here is only 1 second, then the GIF is going to keep on restarting every second without ever finishing its animation. So you can play around with this time so that you are happy with how the animations actually look. And you can save it, and then if you're not happy, you can come back and change the time, and then you can save it again. And you can keep on going and changing it until you are happy with the timing of your GIF. You'll see over here it says slides 1 to 1. In this case, I only have one slide in my presentation, so that is why it just says 1 to 1. If I had more slides in my presentation, it would show 1 to 5 or 10 or whatever. And I would just make sure that I have the slide selected that I am wanting to turn into a GIF. Okay, so now I'm going to go and create my GIF. I'm going to save this as Christmas background 2. Okay, so now I've saved that as a GIF using the higher quality settings. So now I'm going to go and insert a new slide. Delete those, and I'm going to go and change the background. Now I'm going to show you another way that you can go and format the background, and that is by right-clicking on the slide itself, and you'll see over here it says Format Background. So if I click on here, it bypasses the need to go to Design and then Change Background. I can go straight there by right-clicking and selecting that option. So over here again, I'm going to click on Picture or Texture Fill, Insert from a file, and this time I'm going to insert the second one that I made. This is the higher quality one that I made. Okay, I'm also going to insert the lower quality one that I made, just so that you can see the difference between the two that I have now created. So again, insert a picture from a file, and there it is. It's the first one I made. Okay, so now let's go and have a look at what it looks like. So I'm going to start on the first slide that I created, which is where I have all of the elements just separate. This is not the one where I turned it into a GIF yet. Okay, so let's have a look at a slideshow. Okay, so over here, you can see this is the first one that I created. Nice, crisp lines. The quality is good. Now, if I go to the next page, the next slide, I've just changed to the next slide, and you can see the quality is still the same as it was on the first slide. It hasn't changed. Now, if I go to the third slide, which was the one with the lower quality, you'll be able to see the difference between the higher quality GIF and the lower quality GIF. So this is the lower quality GIF, and there is the higher quality GIF. And you can see that everything is much crisper, it's much clearer, it's not grainy like it was with the lower quality GIF. So it's very useful to be able to go and change the quality settings when you are creating the GIF so that you can get a nice, good quality GIF to actually insert as your background. Okay, so now that you know how to insert an animated GIF background into PowerPoint, I'm also going to show you how you can insert it into Google Slides. So we're going to start off with this blank Google Slides presentation. I'm just going to delete the text boxes over there because I don't need them. And now I'm going to change the background. To do this, it's easy. You just right-click and then go to Change Background. You'll see over here you have an option to choose image, and I'm going to click on Browse because I want to get a file from my computer. You could also just drag and drop a file onto that page as well. So now I'm going to go and insert the second background that I had, the higher quality one, because that's the one that I want to use. And now I'm going to click Done. And there is my GIF in the background. Now you'll see that in Google Slides, unlike in PowerPoint, when you're in editing mode, the GIF is animated. And this is good to know because this means that you can use editing mode in PowerPoint with a background that is animated and still be able to do things like drag and drop activities or activities where the students have to interact by filling things in and so on, that you can't do in presentation mode. That is something that you would not be able to do in PowerPoint and still have an animated background, because in PowerPoint the background is only animated if you are in presentation mode. So if you are wanting to create resources like that, where you're wanting the students to interact with things on the page and you're wanting them to click and move things around and fill things in and so on, then you'll want them to be working in editing mode. And that means that Google Slides would be the better option if you want your background to be animated. If you're wanting to work in presentation mode, then it doesn't matter. You can use either, because if I go to the presentation mode in Google Slides over here, you'll see that the animations are all working properly there as well. So in Google Slides, the animations work in both presentation mode and in editing mode. Okay, so it's actually very easy to insert your animated background into Google Slides. Okay, now I'm going to throw a spanner in the works and talk about once-off GIFs. They work a little bit differently to your continuous GIFs, which are the kind that I was using in the last example that I gave you with the Christmas background. So say you want to have your background include an animated GIF to show time running out, or a dice that's rolling and then lands on a number, etc. Now, when you create a GIF in PowerPoint, you are not able to control whether that GIF is once-off or continuous. And this means that when you use a once-off GIF, it is going to loop again and again and again. But there is a way to get around this without having to worry about changing it into a once-off GIF using a different program. So what I'm going to show you now is how you can do that, and that is actually by using something that I already showed you earlier in the second method for turning it into a GIF in the first place. But first I'm going to go and insert a once-off GIF on my page. Okay, so I'm going to show you an example where I'm going to put in a timer for 5 seconds on my page. So I'm going to start off by inserting that image that I want. I'm going to use this 5-second timer over here. Now this would obviously be part of your background, it would not be your entire background. Okay, so my 5-second timer, as you can see, it runs out after 5 seconds. This is a once-off GIF, so if it's just used as a GIF on its own, it will not start again. However, because I'm going to be saving it as a GIF using PowerPoint's ability to save it, it is going to turn into a continuous GIF when I do that. So I need to make a plan to still get the functionality that I want out of it. So I'm going to go to File, not Save As, because then I have no control over what I get. I'm going to go to Export and create an animated GIF. Now you see it's still extra large because that is what I did for the last example. And now I'm going to look at the seconds to spend on each slide, and I'm going to play around with this. Now that timer that I've just put in is a 5-second timer. So if I have this time set to 1 second, then the timer will not even finish. So I need to increase it. I need to make it at least 5 seconds. That will at least allow the timer to finish, but then it would start again immediately, and that's not what I want. So I am going to change it, and I'm going to increase the time a lot, so that I can be relatively certain that if a student is working on a slide that timer is on, they would have left the slide by the time that GIF starts again, by the time the timer restarts. So I'm going to increase the time over here. Now you are able to change this time to anything up to 16 minutes and 40 seconds. Seems like a very random amount, but I realized that that's actually 1000 seconds. So I think that's why that is the time that they allow. So that's the maximum. So you can make it 10 minutes, you can make it 5 minutes, whatever time you feel you need for a student to have enough time to finish on that slide. Whether I choose to make this 16 minutes and 40 seconds using the full time available to me, or I choose to make it a 5-minute GIF, it's not going to change the file size. When you create a GIF in PowerPoint, it only creates new frames as long as there is change happening on the slide. Once it reaches the point where the slide is not changing anymore, then it will stay on the same frame just for a longer time. So if I have my GIF set to 5 minutes, then it means that once that timer has finished running out, which was 5 seconds, then the rest of the 5 minutes, it's going to remain on that same frame of my image, of my GIF. And that would be for 4 minutes and 55 seconds. If I chose to make my GIF the full 16 minutes and 40 seconds that's available to me, then the GIF would run and the frames would all change for 5 seconds, and then when I reach the point of the sand having run down and the timer finishing after 5 seconds, it will then remain on the same frame for a total of 16 minutes and 35 seconds, the rest of the time remaining for that entire GIF. So because it stays on the same frame, there aren't more images added to the GIF just because it's a longer GIF. And that means that the GIF will have the same file size. So you don't need to worry about making an exorbitantly huge GIF by making it longer when you're using a once-off GIF. It's different if you're using continuous GIFs. But if you're using a once-off GIF, then the file size won't change based on the length of the GIF, the time that you allow for the GIF to continue. Okay, so I'm going to make this 5 minutes. Be aware that the longer the time you put over here, the longer it will take for the GIF to process. So if you choose to make it a 16-minute GIF, then it's going to take a long time for that GIF to process. Not because it's making a very big file, just because it takes a long time for it to figure out how much needs to go into that GIF. It needs to run through the whole time and know that there are no more frames that need to be added to that image. So it takes a long time to create the GIF, even though it will not be a bigger file than if you made it just 5 seconds. Okay, so I'm making this one 5 minutes, and I'm keeping that extra large, and I'm going to create my GIF. So I'm just going to call this Hourglass. Okay, so now that GIF has finished processing, I'm going to go and insert it as a background in another slide. So I go change or format background, picture, insert from a file. And I'm going to choose the hourglass that I just created. Okay, now you'll see again, because it's in editing mode, this is not animated. So I'm going to go to my presentation mode, and you can see that that sand runs down, and then it stays like that because I set this GIF to last for 5 minutes. So when 5 minutes finishes, then the GIF will restart again. But as long as the students have left the slide before the 5 minutes finish, then they will not see that GIF restarting. Like I said, you would need to set the time based on how long you anticipate students remaining on that screen for. Otherwise, they will see the GIF restart again. Okay, I also want to show you that if I take this slide and I duplicate it, now all of these have the exact same GIF on them. Okay, so I'm going to go to my presentation, and my sand runs down at the hourglass. Then I go to the next slide, and you see it starts again. So even though it's the same GIF for the exact same file, it's not like in Boom where you have to insert a new version of that GIF. It will still work if you have it on a new slide. Go to the next slide, and again it starts from the beginning. And the next slide, again it starts from the beginning. However, I want you to have a look at this. That the last one that I was just on, I left the slide before that GIF had finished. So if I go back to that slide, it is going to continue from the point it was at when I left the slide. So you see, it was not finished running down yet, and so it now finished running down, and then it stayed there. So if somebody leaves the slide while it is still busy with its animation, when they go back to that slide again, it picks up from where it left off. So it doesn't continue running in the background when you're on another slide. Okay, so now you've seen how once-off GIFs work in PowerPoint. Now I want to show you what happens when you try and use these in Google Slides. Unfortunately, in Google Slides, once-off GIFs or our adaptation of those once-off GIFs just do not work reliably. And unfortunately, there is nothing that I can do about that. But I want to actually show it to you so that you can see it for yourself. So I'm going to go and I'm going to insert that same hourglass GIF into my background that I was using in PowerPoint. So it's over here. Okay, so there is my GIF in my background. Now you'll see that it runs, and then just like it did in PowerPoint, it has now finished, and it will then stay like that until the 5 minutes are over. But now if I take this and I open it, you'll see it. First of all, we already know that background GIFs will be animated in editing mode. Okay, so it did already do its animation in editing mode. So if I go to present, that GIF doesn't restart. Whereas when I went into presentation mode in PowerPoint, the GIF started when I got to that slide. And then it started again on the next slide, and it started again on the next slide, etc. Okay, so if I go out of here and I think, okay, well maybe I can refresh the page and that will help me to get the GIF to restart. Sometimes it does, and sometimes it doesn't. And I honestly can't tell you what causes the difference. So in this case, it did restart. But again, if I try and go into presentation mode, it won't. If I also take this and I duplicate it again and again and again, like I did in PowerPoint, you'll see that on every slide, that GIF is in the same position as the first slide because it is seeing it as the same file because I just duplicated it. If I do just add a new slide, and I'm going to delete these things over here. Okay, and I change the background. I'm going to choose image, and I'm going to insert that exact same GIF again. Now it'll see it as a separate image, and it will animate again, which is what I would want. However, if I refresh this page, if I reload the page to try and get the GIFs to start again, let's see what happens. Okay, so this time, when I reloaded this page, this GIF didn't restart. And you could see in the background over here that this one did restart, but by the time I actually get to that slide, the GIF is finished. And I have no way of predicting if, like in this case, that GIF didn't restart. I don't know why. In this case, it did, but it restarted on the side over here when I wasn't even on that slide at all. And if I try and go into presentation mode, it won't restart either. So, like I said, once-off GIFs and these adaptations that we've made of once-off GIFs do not work properly in Google Slides. So if you're wanting to use once-off GIFs, then I would recommend that you use the MP4 video method that I show in my other video, or that you do it in PowerPoint, because in PowerPoint it will work provided you are working in presentation mode. If you're working in editing mode, then for both of them you would not be able to do it using the once-off GIFs. You would need to use the MP4 method. So just keep that in mind. If you are wanting students to actually be doing drag and drop activities or filling in the blanks or anything like that that they can't do in presentation mode, then you will not be able to use once-off GIFs in your backgrounds. It just won't work, because in PowerPoint, in editing mode, the animations don't run, and in Google Slides, once-off GIFs just give problems all the time. So if you are wanting to use once-off GIFs, then you just need to be aware of those limitations and get around it by doing the MP4 video method instead. Okay, so that is how the GIFs work in Google Slides and in PowerPoint. Okay, so now that I've shown you how to create these animated backgrounds and use them in Google Slides and PowerPoint, I need to remind you about the importance of following the terms of use of any clip artist whose GIFs you are using. Personally, I don't have a problem with my GIFs being used in this way. I feel that when the GIFs are used as backgrounds and they are secured in the background of a PowerPoint presentation or a Google Slides presentation, they are protected because they cannot be extracted, particularly when you are combining them with other images. And it would be very difficult for anybody to actually separate them out. I am quite happy for my GIFs to be used in this way. However, not all clip artists would feel this way. Many clip artists have a rule in their terms of use that if you are using their GIFs in Google Slides or PowerPoint or any other platform, you have to turn them into MP4 videos to protect their clip art. So if you are unsure, I would recommend reaching out to the clip artist whose GIFs you want to use and ask them. If they don't know about this method, you can always point them in the direction of this video or the guide in my store, which is free, so that they can find out about this method and then they can make an informed decision and let you know one way or the other. Obviously, if they decide you can do it, then great. If they decide you can't, then you need to abide by their terms of use. I hope that this video has been helpful. If you have any further questions, please contact me. Let me know. I will do my very best to help you. Have a wonderful day further. Thank you.